Hey guys, welcome to Canna Talk on In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio. My name is Nurse Mark, and I'm here with Cannabis Nurse Sherri, and we're from the Green Nurses.
Hey everyone, every month we cover health awareness topics and we bring you endocannabinoid system education in regards to how these health topics all intertwine with one another. As cannabis nurses, we want you to understand how the endocannabinoid system plays a vital role in all areas of our lives and is
Mm,
truly the key to optimal health. So this month is National Nutrition Month. And what this month is all about is it encourages people to take a look at what they're eating and encourages people to look at and make informed food choices to develop sound eating patterns, including physical activity and habits that are going to help you to live your best life. So the
mm,
theme this month is personalize your plate with a variety of health food choices. Mark and I talk about this all the time at the Green
mm,
Nurse. What we
mm.
eat and don't eat affects our endocannabinoid system either positively or negatively. So when we talk about things that we don't want to do, what we talk about is try to avoid as much as possible fast food, fried food, fake food, artificial flavors, artificial colorings, sugar, high fructose corn syrup,
Mhm.
trans fat, hydrogenated oils, and alcohol. So these are things that we want to try to start eliminating. But you think, oh, what is there for me to eat? Mark, there's plenty for us to eat. What types of foods should people be eating?
Yes, so fresh or frozen vegetables, whole foods that are rich in micronutrients, Sherry.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And of course, all those that you listed were the wonderful things that I grew up with and, were on our table because that's just what we've been told we should eat. And it's what we've been marketed to. And, so we're trained like trained animals to eat those kinds of foods. But there are better choices, and that's what we're
Yeah.
here to talk about.
And the part that's so cool too is that we can eat our cannabinoids, right? So, nutrition, hemp products, hemp
Mhm.
hearts, hemp milk, hemp seeds, hemp protein,
Right,
all of these different things, they're filled with micronutrients and they nourish our endocannabinoid system.
right.
So, what we're going to talk about now is we're going to get into cannabis and obesity research as documented in Canna Keys. And I think this is just, it kind of ties into National Nutrition Month because what we're doing is we're looking at and comparing how we can eat to improve the quality of our lives and
Mhm,
manage symptoms and how
mhm.
cannabis can be a part of that. Because a lot of people get really nervous and scared that if they're going to start using cannabis, they're going to get fat.
No, there was a recent study that was just published that said cannabis users on average, are thinner than people who don't use cannabis.
Mhm.
And there are reasons why that is the case. So, we'll get into those for sure. But let's start
Yeah.
off with, so what's obesity? I mean, we all know that there is an obesity epidemic in the United States. It's just the statistics don't lie, the numbers don't lie. It is what it is. So we start off by talking about obesity being anyone who has a BMI, a body mass index over 30. Now
Right.
that's a rudimentary chart that's been used for, I don't know, 100 years. It was created by a mathematician, not even anybody in healthcare. So it's still utilized, it was really utilized by the government. But it's anybody who has a BMI over 30. So that it
Yeah.
also refers to a body weight gain so excessive that it produces a negative impact on one's health and well-being. So what are some of the
Yeah.
causes, Jerry?
So some of the causes are high calorie intake, too many calories in, and calories are units of energy, right? So taking in empty calories, calories that have no nutritional value. So that's poor nutrition, making bad choices. The
Yeah,
standard American diet
yeah.
generally incorporates all the fast food, fried food, and fake food.
Mhm. Yeah,
What else, Mark?
really super easy stuff that we've been programmed psychologically to eat. Then we have
Mhm.
lack of sufficient exercise. And I
Mhm.
mention it all the time, Sherry, because it really shocked me to find out that the second leading cause of preventable death in the United States is a sedentary lifestyle. So
Yeah,
not exercising kills almost as many people as tobacco. And
there
tobacco
you go.
kills almost a 500,000 people a year in tobacco
Oh, wow.
related disease.
Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah. And
big
so
deal.
big deal. So the other thing too, let's put the endocannabinoid system in there just a little bit. So just think about motion is the lotion. So when you
Mhm.
work out, right? You stimulate your endocannabinoid system to release that bliss-like molecule, right?
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
starts to regulate.
Right.
And, we have talked about some other research before is that, people that consume cannabis a little bit every day actually exercise 45 minutes longer than those that don't. So
Yeah.
exercise is
Mhm.
important.
Yeah, and of course, we have the mental and emotional underpinning of food and eating, right? People eat when they're stressed, so it's
Right,
comfort eating.
right,
Excessive stress causes us because of the hormones that are released, because of all of those things that are going on in our body, the cortisol. It forces us to either eat or not eat. Some people don't
right,
eat. And
right.
then, that leads to a lot of different things like a lack of sleep. Lack of sleep has a profound impact on one's BMI, on obesity.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Then there's underlying metabolic or hormonal conditions. So, for
Hmm.
example, diabetes, endocrine disorders, polycystic ovarian disease, all of these
Yeah.
different things can contribute to how our weight fluctuates and actually to whether we're going to hang on to pounds or not.
Right. And we get into this space of metabolic syndrome, and that's a whole
Mhm.
slew of different things that are going on, negative things going on in your body that are related to having that excess weight. So you reach sort of that tipping point where you really should get on it. Like, type 2 diabetes many
Yeah,
times is related to excess weight, right? A lot of people who
absolutely.
have that higher BMI have a much higher likelihood of developing this type 2 diabetes
Yep.
because your body mass increases, but your pancreas size doesn't. So
Right.
that little bugger's pushing out insulin all the time, and you have this larger mass. It's harder for that pancreas to keep up with it.
Yes. And so the thing too is need to understand. So what the pancreas does is secretes the insulin to carry the sugar, the
Mhm.
glucose into our cells for energy. So if it's
Right.
not working,
The glucose,
glucose
the energy.
doesn't get into the cell. So it's
Yeah.
circulating around our system and then we're just
Mhm.
laying on pounds,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And some
Yeah.
other
So
some other things, some other causes, certain medical conditions, hypothyroidism, right?
mhm,
So that's another cause of obesity because your metabolism is decreased because of that thyroid issue.
yeah.
Yep.
And then we have genetics is another
Yeah.
one.
Yep.
Some
Microbiome imbalances. So,
huge.
you may be taking in some of the nutrition, you may not based on the
Yeah.
microbiome.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we all know too, certain pharmaceutical medications does cause
Mhm.
weight gain. I know for a fact,
Oh, yeah.
prednisone, steroids.
Especially prevalent. Yeah, right, steroids, especially prevalent in a lot of the, mental health pharmaceuticals. A lot of them,
Yeah,
have on their black box warning in their warning sheet will say, could cause metabolic syndrome, could cause weight gain.
yeah,
So, there are definitely some pharmaceuticals that can cause that. So
right.
so what's the treatment?
So the treatment includes, as we've been talking about,
Mhm.
dietary considerations, better
Yeah.
choices,
Mhm.
elimination, starting eliminating things, adding things that are replacing things, just
Yeah.
shifting.
Yeah.
Pharmaceutical management, there are pharmaceuticals that are out there that can help
Mhm.
with obesity. Surgery, reducing the size of the stomach,
Yeah. I have a lot of
they
friends who have had different gastric bypass, banding. There's a lot of different things that they do today in order to try to,
yeah,
alleviate. But, honestly, Sherry, what I've seen in a lot of cases are people who have friends who have had this surgery and they're good for a year and then they're back to eating the same things that they did, only now they have this smaller stomach that it just goes to show how hard it is to reprogram how we eat, but
yeah.
it can be
Be
done. It
done.
can,
It's
and
so
cannabis can help. Now we're going to talk
yeah,
about research,
yeah.
and we're going to talk about a lot of studies.
So
Yeah.
there were 40 studies in Canakes,
Yep.
one double-blind study, 0
Mhm.
human clinical trials.
Yeah.
So, which I think this is really cool. So the most recent one was the 2015 study. It studied neural effects of cannabinoids in the CB1 in our brain, neutral agonist. So what does that mean? It means that they're looking at the food reward and aversion in healthy volunteers. And they looked at a specific cannabinoid,
Mhm.
THCV, which is an antagonist. So we have an agonist, antagonist. Agonist
Mhm.
says go, antagonist says stop. And so what
Yeah.
it does is it increases the neural response to reward and aversive stimuli in various portions of the brain with the potential relevance to food and behavior. So it's really like looking at balancing out our choices. You know, is this a good thing? Is this a bad
Right.
thing? You become more aware. It increases, I want to say,
Yeah.
what the neuroplasticity for our minds to be able to figure out what's good and bad all
And
on its
it's
own.
always about that response to the reward, right? That I mean,
Yeah.
that's where it comes from, that dopamine hit. Dopamine's the happy molecule, right? So that dopamine hit, we're rewarded. So that's what reinforces whatever behavior. That's why you smoke, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a
Exactly.
dopamine rush. I mean, cognitively, if you think about it, smoking, you just wouldn't do it if you cognitively were able to handle that. It becomes that dopamine reward that you're like, "Oh, I gotta have this. I gotta have this." Okay, what's
So
the state of the science, Sherry?
So the state of the science, this is really cool. So
Yeah,
overall positive with all of the studies that we talked about,
yep,
the 40 studies, overall
mhm,
positive was 88%. Now the clinical positive, so when they're looking in details, 100% positive using these different cannabinoids to
mm,
regulate our response to eating, the
yes,
different ways.
but then we bring it all back. We bring it all back to
The
the umbrella,
endocannabinoid system.
the
Exactly.
endocannabinoid system.
Yep.
Yeah,
So the
so
endocannabinoid system, to review, is the largest neuroregulatory system in our body. It regulates all 11 organ systems, our
mhm,
immune system, and all the messenger signaling systems, the neurotransmitters that tell our body to either do something or not do something. So all components of the endocannabinoid system are present in the gastrointestinal system, which
yeah.
allows what to happen, Mark?
Oh my gosh, it allows our bodies to create the localized endocannabinoids, anandamide and 2-AG, and their metabolizing enzymes, Pha
Right.
and MAG10.
So the endocannabinoid system and the gastrointestinal system also allows the CB1 and the CB2 receptors to be activated,
Mhm.
and it modulates all of the other receptors that
Yeah,
actually have something to do with the gastrointestinal tract. There's a lot of names. I'll give you a couple: TRPV1,
yep,
PPARS,
yep.
GPR55. Right. So just
Well-known
think,
receptor sites.
yes, yes, and they
Yeah,
all do something in our body.
and, your gut is really it's another part of your brain. It's just a distributed part of your brain, and here you have all of these things going on in the gut. It's imperative that you have good gut health for leading a happy, healthy life, Sherry. You know personally.
Absolutely, I do know
Yeah,
personally.
yeah. So the
Nutrition.
endocannabinoid system, the presence and functions have also been confirmed in all other major obesity-related organs or tissues, like the
Wow,
liver,
great.
the pancreas, the muscle cells, fat cells, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the HPA axis, which we talk about a lot,
Yeah.
the hypothalamic pituitary thyroid and growth hormone axes as well.
So just think about how cool this is, this the interconnectedness. Go back to the
Mhm.
umbrella, right? We
Yeah.
are that umbrella. So cannabinoids work on all of these different things at the same time.
Mhm.
So preclinical trials have shown that cannabis to have significant implications for, and we're going to go down the list, for taste sensations of
Yeah.
wanting food, the food seeking motivations.
And that's important if you're on the other side, not dealing with the obesity issue, but dealing with, say, cancer
Mm,
treatment and chemotherapy.
mm,
My aunt told me she is starting a chemotherapy regimen soon again, and she told me that food just doesn't taste good.
yeah.
Like, it just
Yeah.
don't wa it's just not tasty anymore, and you just don't wanna eat it, so this can help with it.
Totally. It
Mm,
enhances flavors and smells and,
mhm.
the feelings of feeling full,
Yeah.
the sweet taste perception.
Yeah, and it can deal with difficulty in digesting, right? Nausea and vomiting. It's been used for a long, long time in that area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cannabis has been used to manage metabolic imbalances or
Mhm.
abnormalities. So, like we talked about diabetes, it help us to start
Yeah,
to auto regulate our glycemic index and our sugars.
because it
Right.
has something to do with insulin resistance, right? And
Right.
maybe the cells are not as open to receiving insulin and the glucose as before. And
Right.
ghrelin production as well, which is another important regulatory hormone for eating. right?
Right.
So, it's exciting to think that cannabis can have a positive effect in the realm of diabetes because it's such a horrible disease to have to deal with. Yeah.
So preclinical trials have also
Mhm.
shown cannabis to have significant implications for being overweight, weight control, body mass index,
Mhm. Yeah.
fasting, glucose and lipids. When we're taking in fats, carbohydrates, and proteins, being able to have them work in conjunction with all of the other systems in our body. So
Right.
we work like a well-oiled machine.
Your microbiota in your gut. So
Right.
that can actually influence your mood.
So just
Yeah.
imagine this. They've already done trials using cannabinoids to
Mhm.
improve the microbiome, which actually connects over to cognition. Really,
Yes.
really cool, right?
Yes.
Cannabinoids, gut health, brain
Mhm.
health.
Yeah.
So cool.
And related to various inflammatory conditions, right? Weight gain is associated with an increase in pro-inflammatory cytokines. And
Yeah.
that's what we know cannabis has an effect on cytokine production. Here's a note. Early generations of cannabinoid-based drugs attempted to block the CB1 receptor, which induced a lack of interest in food. So that was a medication that was out for a short while. It was used to decrease obesity, and it also produced dysphoria and
Mm,
suicidality,
yeah.
which was something that they noticed right away, and so they took it off the market for that reason. Right now, they're targeting peripheral CB1 receptor sites without centrally associated psychoactivity. So it's
There you
being
go.
tested in animals, suggesting a potential novel treatment avenue.
THC has been shown in compromised patient populations. For example, the patients that have anorexia, HIV, AIDS, wasting syndrome, it has been shown to increase their appetite and their caloric intake, right? And so these little weight gains has been shown to be the cause of in healthy people. So their health progresses over time,
Mhm.
even just gaining slight amount of weight,
Yeah.
right? And so the studies have shown that.
Right. And it's been said that CB2 activation may oppose the potential weight gain effects of CB1 activation. And it's currently being tested as a target receptor site in treating obesity. So
There you go.
THCV is a naturally occurring CB1 antagonist. And remember,
Right.
an agonist tells your body to do something, an antagonist tells it to stop doing it.
So there we go. What is the bottom line here, everyone? We
Mm,
must take care of our endocannabinoid system.
mhm,
Just going to give a quick story. There was a story of an overweight nurse who had psoriatic arthritis. She was
mhm,
on multiple medications, steroids, a ton of medications, drug
right.
nutrient depletion. She was overweight. She did all of the endocannabinoid system activities that
Mhm,
didn't work until cannabis stepped into her life. Was
right.
able to manage all of her systems. She was able to engage in other activities, and the weight came off,
That's the
right?
beauty of cannabinoids.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And health and wellness activities and diet are crucial to a healthy endocannabinoid system, and it makes cannabis work better. So, folks, thanks for joining us for this segment of the Canna Talk on In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio. And remember, we're weekly live on Wednesdays from 4:20 to 6:20 at www.facebook.com/Prohibition Talk Radio.
And if you or someone you love is suffering from chronic pain, interested in cannabis wellness, or you're interested in having a safe adult use experience, contact us at www.thegreennurse.com. And remember, it's all about living your best life.